The Body Knows, Episode 1, The Body Script. What behavior really means. Welcome to The Body Knows. This is a series about the hidden language of our bodies, the nervous system signals, the subtle cues, and the survival strategies that shape everything we call behavior. For too long, behavior has been reduced to good and bad, right and wrong, obedient and defiant. But beneath those labels lies a far richer truth. Every gesture, every silence, every outburst is a script written by the body in real time. A script shaped by biology, by memory, by culture, and by power. In this series, we'll step into ordinary and extraordinary situations, classrooms, families, even cults, and trace what is really happening second by second inside the body. We'll weave neuroscience, psychology, philosophy, and lived experience to reveal how behavior is not just choice, but communication. Not just surface, but survival. And in this first episode, we begin with the foundations. This is the body script, what behavior really means. Together we'll ask, when we call behavior good or bad, what are we really seeing? How does the nervous system drive action? And what happens when a child in a classroom, or even ourselves in moments of stress, are judged by surface actions while the truth underneath goes unseen? Because if the body has always known, then perhaps it's time we learn to listen. Picture a classroom just after lunch. The fluorescent lights hum faintly overhead, chairs scrape against the floor, and voices overlap as children shuffle into their places. One child begins to rock gently in their chair, tapping a pencil against the desk. To them, the rhythm is a lifeline, a way of finding balance in the noise. To the teacher, though, it looks like a disruption. She stops, frowns, and says sharply, "Stop that, sit still, pay attention." On the outside, the pencil goes still. The rocking stops. To everyone watching, the problem seems solved. But inside that child's body, a storm is already underway. Their heart beats faster, their chest tightens, their stomach knots. They are not calmer, they are silenced. This is where we begin. Because if behavior is judged only by what we see, then the truth of what is happening underneath gets lost. And the truth is that behavior is not just action. Behavior is communication. It is the body's language when words are not enough, or when words cannot come at all. Think of behavior as shaped by three invisible forces. First, drives, the primal needs for safety, belonging, food, and curiosity. Second, conditioning, the rules we learn from praise and punishment, from silence rewarded and tears scolded. And third, context, the setting that decides what counts as acceptable. Laughing is fine in a comedy club, offensive at a funeral. Fidgeting is overlooked at home, condemned in class. Behavior always wears the costume of its environment. But definitions and theories only take us so far. To really understand behavior, we need to step inside the body in real time, to slow down the moment and watch what unfolds second by second. So let's return to that classroom. At first, the child is holding it together. But the buzzing lights, the scraping chairs, the overlapping voice, all of it creates sensory load. Every flicker and sound funnels into the thalamus, the brain's relay station. Normally, the thalamus filters out the irrelevant, passes on only what matters. But under stress, the filter weakens. More noise breaks through. Now the brain's prediction system is struggling. It expected calm, but received chaos. This mismatch, what neuroscientists like Carl Friston call prediction error, registers as a potential threat. The amygdala, the brain's alarm bell, notices. And once it does, everything changes. The amygdala sounds the signal, danger. The sympathetic nervous system surges. First comes adrenaline. Heart rate quickens, breathing goes shallow, pupils widen, muscles tighten. Then comes cortisol, ensuring the body stays on high alert, but at the cost of draining the higher brain. The prefrontal cortex, the seat of focus and inhibition, begins to dim. And with that dimming, the ability to sit still, concentrate, and comply becomes physiologically harder, not easier. So the child fidgets. They tap the pencil, rock their chair. These aren't rebellions. These are the body's tools for regulation, attempts to bleed off excess energy, to keep the system steady. Occupational therapy research confirms what many children know instinctively. Movement regulates. Then the reprimand lands. Stop that. Sit still. To the child's nervous system, this is more than instruction. It is a social threat, and social threat registers as pain. Naomi Eisenberger and Matthew Lieberman's studies show that rejection activates the same brain regions as physical hurt, the anterior cingulate cortex and the insula. The child's chest tightens further, their stomach twists. Shame magnifies distress. With no outlet left, the body's options collapse. Fight, flight, freeze, fawn. In a classroom, most children freeze, stillness outside, chaos inside. Others fawn, apologizing, smiling, desperate to please. To the teacher, behavior is corrected. To the child, survival has been bought at enormous cost. Later, there will be tears, irritability, and exhaustion. And the hidden lesson is learned. My signals are unsafe. Silence equals safety. Now imagine another child in the same room, one whose nervous system aligns with what science calls neurotypical. Their thalamus filters noise efficiently. The amygdala responds proportionally. Mirror neurons fire quickly, smoothing social interaction. The prefrontal cortex holds focus and impulse control even under mild stress. And when stress ends, the body resets quickly. This child finds it easier to sit still, follow instructions, and recover. Their behavior fits the system. They are called good. Not because they are better, but because the system is built for them. Shift perspective again to an autistic child. Autism is not a disease. It is a neurodevelopmental difference, a different way of connecting and processing. For them, the classroom feels like an assault. Lights blaze, sounds pierce, fabrics scratch like nettles. Studies show heightened responses in sensory cortices and thalamic filtering that lets more input through. Flooding replaces focus. The amygdala, often larger or more reactive in autistic children, flags risk more quickly. Neutral contexts become threatening when sensory load builds. Social processing follows a different rhythm. The default mode network and mirror systems engage differently, leading to responses that are slower, more deliberate, but often more authentic. Different, not deficient. Under stress, executive functions fatigue faster. Switching tasks, suppressing impulses, and tolerating stillness. What looks easy to some becomes unbearable. Many autistic children learn to mask, to camouflage, to suppress rocking, stimming, and honesty. Masking buys short-term acceptance, but at the cost of long-term burnout. Hull and colleagues in 2017 documented its heavy toll. Now return to the classroom. Harsh lights, scraping chairs, layered voices. The autistic child rocks to regulate. The reprimand lands. Social threat piles on top of sensory overload. Executive control drops. Options collapse to freeze or fawn. Later the crash, headaches, tears, shutdown. On the surface, good behavior. Beneath the surface, survival. This is the key. What we call bad behavior is often the body trying to cope. What we call good behavior may be the body shutting down. The moral labels don't match the biology. I know this from my own life. As a child, when emotional stress rose, my voice would vanish. I became selectively mute. Adults would ask, "What's wrong?" Just say it. But I couldn't. It wasn't a choice. It was physiology. Inside, my amygdala fired its alarms. The sympathetic system surged, heart racing, muscles braced, adrenaline coursing. At the same time, circuits linking my prefrontal cortex to Broca's area, the speech center, faltered. Research from Bessel van der Kolk and others shows that under acute stress, speech areas literally go offline. Words were there in thought, but locked away from my mouth. Then the vagus nerve clamped down. My body shifted into freeze. The brakes silenced my voice. The more I was pressed to speak, the worse it became. Each demand added shame. The anterior cingulate cortex registered rejection, the insula amplified it, and the silence burned. Speaking was not hard, it was impossible. Sometimes the trapped energy exploded outward as a meltdown, loud, messy, undeniable. Other times it collapsed inward as a shutdown, silent, still unreachable, both painful, both misunderstood, both are treated as problems to fix. But now I can see they were my body's best attempts at protection. Silence was not weakness. Shutdown was not empty. Meltdown was not madness. They were surviving. And yet, behavior is rarely seen as survival. It is judged as morality. Aristotle believed virtue was built by habit, good behavior repeated until it formed character. Nietzsche argued that morality itself was a cage, a tool of control. Foucault showed how institutions discipline bodies, shaping docility. Wittgenstein suggested that language itself creates the frame called behaviour, defiant, and it becomes defiant in the eyes of all who hear it. Culture proves the point. In many Western classrooms, stillness equals respect. In other traditions, movement and sound are part of learning. Rocking can be either regulation or rebellion, depending on the context. Power decides the caption, and so language turns survival into sin. Disruptive, defiant, attention-seeking, weak in faith. These labels don't describe behavior. They condemn it. They justify silencing. So let's pause for a moment here and turn the reflection to you. Think back to your own childhood. What behaviors of yours were punished, but were really your body trying to cope? Were you told off for fidgeting, for crying too loudly, for shutting down when things became too much? What did your body know that others did not want to hear? And now let's bring the lens outward. How do you recognize nervous system distress in real time, in yourself, in others? Here are some of the signs: a shift in breathing, shallow or fast, restless legs, tapping fingers, or sudden stillness that looks like zoning out, a blank face or eyes darting, words drying up or spilling out too fast, sudden irritability, unexplained fatigue. These are not misbehaviors, these are distress signals. The body is saying, I am overloaded. I need space. I need safety. Finally, a small practice. Wherever you are, take a moment now. Notice 3 breaths just as they are. Notice 3 sensations in your body, perhaps warmth in your hands, tightness in your jaw, and heaviness in your legs. And then ask, what does my body want right now? Maybe a stretch, maybe a sip of water, maybe just a pause. Tiny permissions like this begin to rebuild trust between you and your body. So what do we mean by behavior? Not a scoreboard of good and bad, but a living language, the body negotiating survival in real time. Neurotypical patterns explain why some children fit neatly into the system. Autistic profiles reveal why others are punished for coping differently. Philosophy reminds us that morality is never neutral, it serves power. Culture shows there are many ways to be human. And your body whispers, quietly but insistently, that beneath every label it has always known the truth. Thank you for joining me for this opening episode of The Body Knows. We've explored how behavior is more than action. It is the body's language shaped by drives, conditioning, context, and the nervous system's constant negotiation with the world. We've seen how the same classroom can feel effortless for one child and overwhelming for another. And we've asked what happens when morality and power disguise survival as sin. If today's episode resonated with you, carry the reflection with you. Notice the small signs of nervous system distress, the shallow breaths, the restless legs, and the sudden silence. Notice them in yourself and in those around you, because awareness is the first step in listening. In our next episode, The Body as a Truth Teller, we'll look at how the nervous system, not social rules or moral codes, is the real judge of safety and danger. We'll explore fight, flight, freeze, and fawn as survival strategies, and we'll enter a scenario from the inside. What happens in the body the first time someone is swept into a cult love bombing session? This series, The Body Knows, runs alongside my other work, The Inversiverse, which explores perception, indoctrination, and the deeper structures of influence, and The Unfiltered Human on the Fringe, where I speak raw and personal about shadow emotions and the hidden parts of being human. Together, these projects are connected, each one in its own way, an invitation to see differently and to listen more deeply, because the body has always known. Now it's time we listen.